Okay, this is week 11. We are group 4. This week we are covering new media and in the society. So since the beginning of time, oh wait, hold on. Let me redo that because I totally forgot to should we do our names, say our names?
I don't think it matters if it's on here.
Because
but
they're on it. Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Okay, cool. Okay. I'll just start over then.
Okay.
See, this is
since the beginning of time.
Listen, I'm so awkward. I'm so awkward, y'all.
Let me know when to switch it, Faith.
What do you want me to say? Next slide.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. This is week 11. This week we are covering new media in the society, the dark side, influencer culture, fame, and fortune. Next slide. Since the beginning of time, humans have used pictures and writing as a way to convey a story. Why should that be any different now than it used to be? Well, the difference now is that we live in a world and in a society where audiovisual recordings are more common than not. In the readings this week, we covered new mass media called YouTube and the advancement of auditorial and visual media, how it's changed our society. A little backstory for you. The first movies that were made were silent movies due to the lack of auditory equipment and technology. The first movies that have audio weren't released until the 1920s. Around the same time movies started being auditory, the television was invented. So the television was invented in 1920, and around the same time is when movies first started to begin to have audio. But televisions didn't really become a household thing until the 1940s. After that, the television became one of the fastest growing things in the US. After the television, in the 1950s is when the VCR was invented. The VCR was around not too long, and then after VCRs were invented, they invented the thing that we now know as cable. So cable was invented around the 1980s, 1970s. Cable is a way that you can watch popular programming. We're all familiar with the different programs that you can watch on cable. But in the last 130 years, movies and major motion pictures have come a long way. Some of the most influential audiovisual media platforms were also discovered and created. Two of those things are YouTube and documentaries. Next slide.
So we're going to be talking about the documentary Social Animals. Social Animals follows the story of 3 teenagers and their journey using social media, the highs, the lows, and everything else. The first person we're going to talk about is Kaylin Slevin. Now, Kaylin Slevin is an actress model, dancer, and influencer from Calabasas, California. She started her Instagram when she was about 13 years old, and it's only grown from there. So Kaylin's goal in life as a model, modeling is her number one. She does all of the other things, but she wants to be a very successful model, and her goal in life is to be a Victoria's Secret model. One of her other goals is to start her own fashion line. Her dad said that he's a businessman from Chicago, and he said that he would be happy to help her start her fashion line as long as she got 500K on Instagram. He said she needed to build her platform to 500K, and then he would help her start her platform. So Kaylin went on this journey to build her Instagram. She met with several different photographers to take new pictures to kind of rebrand herself and redo her social media platform so that it looked slightly more professional and a little bit different from like a normal 14-year-old's Instagram. Kaylin says that confidence is key and that she's an overall very confident person. She's confident in what she does, she's confident in what she looks like, and she says that that's what helps her really get through life. Social media has been able to bring her a lot of new opportunities. She has grown her Instagram to well past 500K now in today's world, but back when this movie was created, she eventually hit 500K, and her dad did eventually help her start to build her fashion line. Kaylin is really successful and confident, and social media has brought her a lot of new opportunities, like different modeling gigs just from photographers and casting agents finding her on social media, as well as getting a spot in this documentary. But social media has also had some downsides. First of all, Kaylin said that she is constantly sexualized. And this involves men asking for nude pictures of her, commenting really nasty things on her Instagram page. She says that her and her mom try and go through and delete those kind of comments just to clear out her Instagram, but that they're always there, and sometimes there's too many to get through. This is an issue because a lot of the time it's not just guys her age. It's like guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s, married with children, grandparents that are commenting these really nasty things about her. And it's also a really big issue for all women. And they talked about that a lot in the side stories that they did in the documentary, which is like normal people, not people with big followings, about how they get asked for nudes on a daily basis. But she's also 15 in this documentary, and she has people commenting about her body and just nasty things they'd like to do to her, and it's just disgusting. So that's one thing she's had to deal with being so successful on social media. The second thing was she had a stalker for a little while. Now, this stalker never made contact with her directly, like in person, but they did stalk her on social media. And once the stalker found out that she had a boyfriend, he or she, whoever it was, they're not sure, threatened the boyfriend, saying that like, you can't take Kaylin away from me and I will hurt you if you do. The stalker also threatened her family. They called the police and got them involved and tried to track him down, but it didn't really work out, but they haven't had any issues since then. But she said that's the most extreme thing that's happened since she's gotten famous over social media. And then lastly, she gets a lot of hate comments. A lot of people are very supportive on her social media posts, but she is very beautiful and successful, and she's a model. And instead of people supporting her, a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say, telling her that she doesn't deserve what she's got, or that she's ugly, or just being hateful. So, next slide. The next person featured in this documentary is Hamza Dees. Hamza is an urban photographer in New York City. He was born and raised in New York City. And as glamorous as some people think that is, it's not. It's actually, it can be really challenging. And he had a difficult upbringing. He said that a lot of people in his area, and people of color specifically in his area, grow up to be in gangs and involved in a lot of illegal activities. So he said he would probably just follow in those footsteps. And so he would do anything it took to fit in, like shoplifting or vandalism, just whatever it took to be considered cool and fit in with that crowd. But later down the line, he realized that that's not really what he wanted for his life. He is an avid skateboarder, and he also likes photography. So Hamza's journey started when he took pictures of like old abandoned places and made these abandoned places look beautiful and enticing, whether instead of like gross and abandoned. But then one night he expanded his photography from old abandoned places to a bridge. He decided to climb a bridge in New York City and get pictures from the top of it to get a new view of the city. And those pictures exploded, and he got a bunch of followers, and people thought it was so cool. So he decided to make that his new thing. He was going to climb all the bridges in New York and get pictures from the top of all of them. And not just bridges, but other structures as well. One night, he met up with this other friend, and they went into a subway tunnel and took a bunch of pictures. And he realized that subway opened up this whole new realm of photography. And so he continued to gain a lot of followers from these bridge pictures, these building pictures, and then these subway pictures. And it just really, his account exploded, and he started to get interviewed and have a bunch of articles written about him, and very successful. He even got a few brand deals. He likes to take pictures with his feet hanging off different buildings or bridges. And so he got a deal with a sock company to where he would wear the socks and post pictures of his feet hanging off buildings. And he also did a deal with Kanye West and did a photography thing for Yeezy. So those are all really good things that came out of Hamza's journey on social media, but also there were some downsides to him using social media. There was this big thing in New York because one night a flag on top of the Brooklyn Bridge, it used to fly an American flag, it was changed to a white flag overnight. And they didn't know who did it, but somebody name dropped Hamza because they knew that he liked to climb bridges. So he got questioned, and it was just not good. Because then he started losing popularity, and people were mad at him for doing this. So he decided to do an interview to try and clear his name. But this completely backfired because he kind of exposed bridge climbers, because they're kind of an underground society in New York where people that like to climb free structures like the bridges and buildings, which a lot of time is illegal most of the time. So they weren't too thrilled that he was exposing them. So he received a lot of death threats and lost thousands of followers just overnight from this interview alone, and got a lot of hate for it. But he eventually did another interview where he kind of cleared his name, and it all worked out for him, and he gained tons of his followers back. And now I think he's verified on Instagram, and he has over 300,000 followers. So there's a lot of ups and downs to using social media for Hamza, but it ended up working out for him. The next person we're going to talk about is Emma Crockett on the next slide. Emma Crockett is a normal teenager living in a small town. Emma said that she loves social media, specifically Instagram. Emma knows everything there is to know about Instagram. She talked about using Instagram for like knowing the right time of day to post during the weekday to get the most amount of likes, or knowing the right time to post on the weekends to get the most amount of likes, or what filters to use and what kind of captions to use, and even looking up caption ideas on Instagram. Like, she knows everything there is to know about it. In Emma's family, she wasn't allowed to date until she was 16. So she started using Instagram to like talk to boys to kind of ease into the dating world. And she found this guy from her school that she'd always had a crush on, and they started talking over Instagram. And they began to Instagram date. So they weren't like officially dating, but they were a couple. So after they started dating, things were good until somebody in her school started a cheating rumor. And For Emma's story, I'm not doing how I did the other two, the goods and the bad. I'm just going to tell her story, like the highs and the lows all together. So these cheating rumors spread, and Emma started receiving a lot of hate. The boyfriend believed it. He broke up with her, and then people were calling her a slut and a whore and a bunch of other nasty names that she didn't deserve because, well, she wouldn't deserve them even if she did cheat on him, but she didn't. And so she started receiving lots of hate and death threats, and it got to the point where it was so bad she decided to drop out of her high school and never go back, never even look back. So Emma switched to a new school, and when she did this, she deleted all the pictures on her Instagram, erasing all the memories of her and her friends. She blocked every single person she had on her Instagram currently so that no one from her old school could follow her, and she made her account private. She just completely wanted to start over. When she switched schools, she met this new boy, Nick, and he seemed wonderful, and they started talking, and they became Instagram official and posted pictures of each other, and she really did fall for him. But unfortunately, one day he said that he was going to go hang out with this other girl and like sleep with her, and Emma was really confused because she thought that they were a couple, and he attacked her appearance. He said that she wasn't pretty enough and that her body was nowhere near what it needed to be for him to be interested in sleeping with her. And this sort of made Emma spiral. And she felt really bad about the way she looked. She thought she wasn't good enough. She had all of this self-doubt, and it made it really difficult for her to carry on. She just had major self-doubt about herself, her appearance and her self-image. And so one day she decided that she had had enough of this world and people. So she decided to try to end her life as a way to escape all of the hate that she was getting in a few different ways. But luckily, the paramedics got to her in time and they were able to save her life. And Emma went to an institution to treat her depression that had gone untreated for so long. And now she's doing much better, and she's much more honest with her parents and her family and friends about how she's actually doing. And she says that she regrets giving social media too much power. She said that she let it control how she should feel about herself and her self-image when it's actually all in here and it's how she feels about herself. But she gave social media way too much power, and that's something she wishes she wouldn't have done. Through all three of these stories, you just get to see how social media can be really beneficial. Like for Kaylin, she's building her brand, and Hamza, who made $10,000 off of the Yeezy campaign for shooting a couple of pictures. Social media can be really beneficial for people that want to make a name for themselves out in the world, but it can also be really detrimental to your mental health, and that, like in Emma's story. Today, Emma says that she doesn't give social media too much power. She still does use Instagram, but she just posts whatever she feels like posting because it only matters to her what she's going to do with it. So yeah, social media can be really powerful, and that can be good or bad.
Okay, so another thing that we'll be talking about is Logan Paul. He and his brother, Jake, were famous YouTubers, and I think they still are, but I don't keep up with them. So yeah, a while ago, Logan faced really bad backlash over a video that he posted on his YouTube channel, which was in Japan's suicide forest, and his video featured the corpse of a dead man in it, and he made jokes about it, and I don't know what kind of jokes there were, but the video went viral for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, the backlash included critiques for uploading the video in the first place, and Twitter users called upon YouTube to cancel his channel and ban him from YouTube. And eventually, I don't know how long after, but he did formally apologize for the incident. I don't know if that makes up for what he did, though, but at least he apologized. Next slide, please. And a little while after that, he was visiting, I think it was Yosemite, but I don't exactly remember. But he got called out by park rangers for riding on top of his blue school bus, which is dubbed the cool bus. And apparently riding on top of a bus is illegal, and he got apprehended because of it, and he had to pay a fine. And that happened while he was still trying to recover from the whole suicide forest thing. And he also faced backlash for lyrics in a song of a parody of the song named Handlebars, which his parody of it was No Handlebars. And I don't exactly remember what the lyrics said to it, but it was really, really not good. So, yeah. Next slide.
Okay, next we're going to talk about YouTube. YouTube was created in February of 2005 by Chad Hurley, Stephen Chin, and Jod Carmen. They were all colleagues at PayPal, and YouTube thrived. Well, when YouTube first started, it thrived on clips of cable and network television, but it unexpectedly had like a huge impact from videos being made by non-professional people, and their trademark is to broadcast yourself. In 2008, the presidential campaigns also saw the debut of YouTube. This was the first time that like anything like this had like happened on YouTube, and people submitted questions to the candidates to be answered. And this was like an example of new media in politics. And then this is a video from the actual Democratic debate that was mentioned in the book. And I'm going to play it.
Thousand videos all around the country.
As you can see, some of the questions that were sent in were like very good questions and some were not at all. They were meant to be funny and for people to see. And then some people used their children to get their question on the air. So there were pros and cons of getting questions from the public in that way. And with this debate being on YouTube, anyone in the world could watch it at any point after it was live, which made it really special. So the dark side of YouTube stars, there have been many cases where YouTube stars have become sexual predators. Some examples are Sam Pepper, Tom Milson, and Mike Lombardo. And Sam Pepper, he had a prank channel on YouTube, so he did like pranks on people and stuff like that. And he allegedly groped and solicited nude photographs from underage fans. And he is the young man in the glasses without the hat on, right here. And then Tom Milson, he was a vlogger. And in March of 2014, Tom Milson had talked a fan into a sexual relationship. And he is the guy with the very blue hair. And then Mike Lombardo, he had a music channel. He made all kinds of music and stuff like that. And in February of 2014, he was sentenced to federal prison for 5 years for the possession of child pornography. He had somehow convinced underage fans to send him photos, and there were 11 fans that sent him photographs. And then a lot of people ask, well, why do they become sexual predators? Like, what makes them? And Dan Brown stated in one of the websites that are in the readings for this week, many famous bloggers are truly lone wolves. They spend each day alone as they record, alone as they manipulate footage of themselves for hours on end, and alone as, upon publishing, they bask in an endless barge of digital fandom affirmation. Over this time, it can create an illusionary, solipsistic existence that is lonely at best, and in some cases, psychological damaging. So they're thinking, since these YouTubers are alone by themselves, like when they're editing their stuff, or sometimes just alone, like when they're doing their videos, it can cause them to have psychological damaging and stuff like that, which makes them become sexual predators. And then the sad economics of internet fame. Many famous social media stars are too visible to have real jobs, but are too broke to not have real jobs. So an example is Rachel Whitehurst. She was a beauty blogger, and she had over 160,000 subscribers, I believe. And she was forced to quit her job at Starbucks at the time because people were remembering her work schedule, and they would come in and like stalk her and like talk to her, and she couldn't work and stuff like that. And then, according to Gabby Dunn, platformers like YouTube near the US economy's yawning wealth gap, and being part of YouTube's middle class often means grappling daily with the cognitive dissonance of full comment section and an empty wallet. On the other extreme, fan-funding sites like Patreon are at the center of communal movement to fund smaller YouTubers. And they ask questions like, is someone with 50,000 subscribers worth supporting financially? How about 200,000 or like 1 million? And what if people assume that you're too successful to need money, or you're too proud to tell them otherwise? And then another example is a very popular YouTube musician, Megan Tonez. She said she performed at VidCon a couple years back, and she sang, and like all these fans were screaming at her and like crying because they got to meet her. But the matter of fact is that she could not figure out where she was going to be able to find the money to afford groceries. So that goes with the question, what if people assume you're too successful to need money, or if you're too proud to tell them otherwise? And then Faith, you're up.
So, in this lesson today, we covered audiovisual media and technology and how it's led to so many amazing advancements. But have we as a society sat and talked about the effects of the newly discovered platforms in media? Throughout this lesson, we've kind of discussed one major platform, YouTube. We've discussed the pros of it and the cons of it, as well as pros and cons of regular social media. We've also looked at what it looks like to be in that social media or media spotlight and how it can affect your brand. And like Sydney said, and how Stephanie and Caitlin have both said, being in that social media spotlight has a negative and a positive effect. One of these things is when someone gets death threats or comments on their media, this can mentally harm as well as physically harm. So not only does social media have benefits, but also downfalls. Thank you for listening to our PowerPoint today.